What changes our lives are two things. When a book comes into our life, we say, "Oh, that was that was a book. That was a game changer." The content in the book has to match the timing of what we need. There's chemistry, and all of a sudden, I think, "Oh my gosh, this is going to change my life." And timing is essential. And the reason I know that is I turn around, I look at those 50 books today, and they're all good books and they all changed my life. And I read them and I'll look at them and I'll say, well, that was a good book, but it wasn't that great. Well, the reason it wasn't that great is when I read it, it was great because it's what I needed at the moment. Now I'm past that. I've grown beyond that. And so I look at it and say, well, that was good, but great. But it was great. But it was great because of the timing. And so High Road Leadership, I wrote right now because we're just going to go into a very bumpy period of people looking and saying, can't we do better than this?
It's exciting to see. It's exciting to have conversations about life, sustainability, legacy, and not just talking about financing all the time.
Don talks about really a commitment to leadership. I think that's the distinctive part that makes it so powerful.
I've achieved the American dream, and I'm committed to helping others do the same. All right, everybody. So again, my name is Don Wenner, and John Maxwell is going to join us in a few minutes. He'll be on by 3:10, but my guest will be on a few minutes before. And as soon as he gets on, I'm going to turn the floor really right to him so we can give him all the time we have and hear from him and about his new book, High Road Leadership. He's written now 80 books over a 40 or so year career now, which is pretty astounding, and that's how most people know. So everybody knows him for that. He gets brought around the world to speak on some of the biggest stages, some of the largest groups. He has 50,000 certified coaches in his organization, the largest in the world. And that's how most of us know him for being this leadership expert. I have the great honor to now call him a friend, a mentor, and an investor in DLP as well. I had John listed in a tool we use at DLP, our personal compasses, as an ideal mentor for many years. And there's John in the waiting room. All right, awesome.
Hi, Don. Can you hear me, buddy?
Yes, I can. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I can't see you yet. I'm looking for you, and we'll get you pinned so everybody can see you here in a second. There you are. All right.
Normally they feel I'm best when I'm not seen. They think that a radio voice is better than my TV voice. So so anyway,
I got you
it
spotlighted.
it was so nice to be with you last week up in Pigeon Forge. I thought your conference. Were you pleased? I thought your conference really went well.
Yeah, very, very pleased. And if anybody doesn't know, we had an event last week called Building an Extraordinary Family in Pigeon Forge, and John sort of wrapped up our event and keynoted it on Friday when he was there celebrating his 55-year anniversary with his wife, Margaret. And it was a great honor, of course, to have John come and speak with us. And John, I was just giving everybody a little bit of quick intro as you were coming aboard. Now I'm going to just wrap up here with giving a little quick background to what you're here for, what this kind of event is, and I'm going to just turn the floor to you. So as I was telling everybody right before you joined, John had been somebody I've been looking to be a mentor of mine for a long time, and I had the great joy of meeting John last May in Oklahoma City at a David Green event when John was there to learn, which was astounding, and it was a big deal to me, and I took a picture and had him sign a book, and I'm sure he didn't remember it at all. And then fortunately, Bo, who's a much better salesperson than Bo Parfit, met John in January at another event and somehow convinced John to fly to St. Augustine and come meet with me, which he did, and built a friendship and joined him on a mission trip the next month throughout Central America. Got to spend more time with him back in Oklahoma City at a really cool event in April, and then came and joined us in June. And this event we're doing right now is a part of a group we've been running at DLP now for 13 or 14 years. We call it Driven for Greatness. And what we do, and John, we have a lot of DLP team members here, a few hundred, but we also have invited kind of our community here. So we have a number of people not DLP team members as well. And we started this group, Driven for Greatness, many years ago, as a book club. And the first ever book we read when I came up with this idea to do this was the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Oh,
And since then, we've read, somewhere around 150 different books, and a different team member has presented on that book. Usually we break it into two, and a different team member presents on half the book. And we've done that every other week for the past, 14 or so years. We've read multiple of your 80 books over the years, not all of them, but multiple of them. My favorite of your books of all time is The 5 Levels of Leadership. And that's really what I've built a lot of my leadership thinking around, and a lot of the content and building an elite organization around. So having you here today on a special Driven for Greatness with you on your newest book, High Road Leadership, is a great joy. But before I turn it to you, I just want to mention, as much as everybody is a great admirer of your expertise in leadership and communication, what become the biggest admirer of is the incredible work you're doing, around the world to transform nations, to transform educational systems, and to now have brought 1.5 million people to a relationship with Christ and rapidly growing. It's astounding, and what a great honor to have you here today. So, with that said, I'm going to turn the floor to you to take us away.
thank you, Don. Let me ask you a question as I start to. I'll do a lot of teaching off of High Road Leadership because I assume that's you. That's kind of like the book you're focusing on. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. I've written a lot of books in my lifetime, and High Road Leadership. If somebody ever asks me, okay, what's the most important book that you've ever written? Well, I've got to divorce myself from the fact that it just came out because I fall in love with whatever I'm writing. Okay, so when I'm writing, I say I got problems. I say, oh, this is the best one I've ever written, and this is going to help people the most. So I'm always excited about whatever book I'm writing, because in fact, if think about it, if people ask me what's your favorite book, I say the one I'm writing, and I've come to the conclusion that if at any time I'm writing a book and I'm looking at it and I'm saying this isn't my favorite book, I'll probably stop writing because I think a book deserves passion. I think a book deserves commitment to it. In other words, why would I write a book unless I just felt the book could help change your life or add value to your life? But I did something with this book I've never done with any of the other books, and that is I'm always writing. I'm always writing. I had a book that would have been released right now called How to Receive a Return on Failure, which is a teaching I give in the business community that's very popular. In fact, a lot of businesses say, help us with failure and how do we overcome it and all that stuff. So I had already written the book in the manuscript for it to be released about this time, and I began to look at our world, and I began to look and realize that we're in a season, a leadership political season right now that I think is going to be a very difficult season for everybody. And all of a sudden, I thought, what I really need to do is write on high road leadership because we lack high road leadership in our country. Um, and I'm not. This is not a political book at all. It's a leadership book. In fact, what I really wish is the people that are in politics were good leaders. They're better politicians than they are leaders. But this isn't a political book, but it is a book. It's a picture book. Here's what I wanted you to get in your mind. When you want to create change on your team with people, it's almost impossible to create that change without them seeing a picture of what it looks like. Stanford research says 89% of what we ever learn or agree to, we saw visually first. We see it visually, and then we commit to it. So, High Road Leadership is a picture book of what does a high road leader look like? What's a good leader supposed to? How are they supposed to behave? What do they look like? It's a picture book with a subtitle: Bringing People Together in a World That Divides. And what I've learned in leadership is, of course, what do we talk about? When we talk about vision, we talk about pictures. Leadership is highly visual. No one ever followed a leader that they didn't see, or a leader that they didn't visually have put out in front of them the path that they're to take. And so this book, I think, is going to be a big game changer. Well, let me just say one other thing. If you went into my library at home, my own office, uh, behind me, if I sit at my desk here, right behind me, about right here is a bookshelf, are two bookshelves with about 50 books on them. And I keep them in that position because these are books that I read at a certain time of my life that changed my life. In other words, I picked up that book, I read it, and I thought, oh my gosh, and it was transformative to me. So I keep what I call these life-changing, transformative books kind of right behind me, close. And every once in a while, I'll turn my little swivel chair and I'll pull one off and I'll look at it. Now, here's what I want you to know about the books that changed your life. In fact, if I stopped right now, since you've got a book club, and gosh, congratulations, John, if you've been doing it for 14 years, I mean, this is huge. Think of all the good stuff that had been deposited into you and your people because of this. Okay. What changes our lives are two things. When a book comes into our life, we say, oh, that was a book, that was a game changer. The content in the book has to match the timing of what we need. When what I need, I find in the content of a book, there's chemistry. And all of a sudden I think, oh my gosh, this is going to change my life. And timing is essential. And the reason I know that is I turn around, I look at those 50 books today, and they're all good books and they all changed my life. And I read them and I'll look at them and I'll say, well, that was a good book, but it wasn't that great. Well, the reason it wasn't that great is when I read it, it was great because it's what I needed at the moment. Now I'm past that. I've grown beyond that. And so I look at it and say, well, that was good, but great. But it was great. But it was great because of the timing. And so High Road Leadership, I wrote right now because we're just going to go into a very bumpy period of people looking and saying, can't we do better than this? In fact, I sat down with my 5 grandchildren, and I'm going to mentor them through this book. Now, I've done this before, but we're going to spend some time together. In fact, I think maybe I'm wrong. I don't think Don. I think when you texted me the other day, you said when you left Pigeon Forge with your family, I think you said you took High Road Leadership audio and
Yeah.
listened to it. Isn't that right? Huh?
Yeah, we spent a good amount of time on Father's Day
Okay.
driving, listening to it together. Yeah.
Okay. This is where I'm going right here. What Don's going to experience with his family, with his, and he's got three precious boys. What he's going to experience is this. He's going to experience a family cultural connectivity because they're talking about something that they're reading together. My father did that I'm the middle of 3 children. My father did that with us. He would pick out a book for us. We would read it, and then we would discuss it at dinner. Our dinner time every night was discussing the books that we were reading. Literally, totally changed our lives. In fact, I'm the middle child. My older brother, my younger sister, if you said, what was the most transformative thing that the family did, they would talk about the books my father would pick out, and we would read together, and then we would talk about it, and then we would apply it together. And my father paid me our allowance. Our whole allowance in our family system was based on books. And he would buy the book, and whatever the book cost, he would pay us that much to read the book. And so we got an allowance for reading books, which is just huge. It's just huge. Now my friends, they didn't get allowance for reading books. They got allowance for taking out the garbage and doing chores. In fact, I went to my dad and said, my friends all get money for chores. I think that's a good idea, don't you? He said that. He said to me, son, that's a terrible idea. He said, I don't pay you to be part of a family. You know, if you're part of a family, we all help each other. I don't pay you to be. In fact, he said, if we're talking about payments, by the time you're born, you already owed your mother for 9 months of room and board. So shut up. You know what I mean? And why would I pay you to take out the garbage unless I wanted you to grow up and be a garbage man? I put my money where my values are. Now I'm saying that because how the book helps you is very important. But you can be a catalyst for allowing, especially starting with your family. But this is like if you've got a team of people on your team, this is huge for you to sit down with 3 or 4 of them and go through High Road Leadership because it's a picture of what a good team member looks like. And then it's how can we get there? How can we get there? So I think what I'll do for you today is I think I'm going to give you a very quick overview of the 12 characteristics of a high road leader and make very brief comments on it. But here's what I really do want you to do. As I give you each one of these characteristics, qualities of a high road leader, I want you to write it down. And then this is for you. It isn't for me. It's not for Don. It's for nobody but yourself. But from a 1 to a 5, 5 being absolutely the best and 1 being absolutely the worst, I want you to just put a number beside each quality, each picture I give you. Maybe you're an average, maybe you're 3. So put a 3. And the reason I want you to do that is because when I'm done, you will have not only a picture of what a high road leader looks like, you're going to have a picture of what you need to work on to become a high road leader. Because if you're like me, you're not going to be a 5 in all these areas. So just be open and honest with yourself, and then you kind of know what do I work on, what do I need to maybe practice a lot more so I can get my number up. Okay, you've got that. So let me give you the 12 practices of high road leaders, and the first one is that high road leaders, they bring people together. Okay, they're a catalyst. Okay, they're a catalyst for teamwork. They are great coaches because they bring the team together. This is so essential to being a high road leader. Sadly, in our culture, we see this politically a lot. Instead of bringing people together, the leaders that are running for office, they divide the people. In fact, instead of the United States of America, it could be the divided states of America. We got red, we got blue. In fact, when we designed this book and we designed this cover, this cover's not an accident. If you look at the bottom of it, it's a wide road, but you got red on one side, you got blue on the other side. The higher you go, the less the line is, the more people begin to come together. But if you're a high road leader, you don't divide people. You unite people. And how do you bring people together for a common cause? You look for what everybody has in common. Let me just explain to you this way. Every one of us in this lesson right now have things we disagree with. We just do. There will be things that I do you wouldn't agree with, and you say, I think John's wrong on that. I don't think his idea is that good. Okay. When Don talked about Margaret and I being married for 55 years, we don't agree on everything. Good Lord, we haven't. Somebody says, "You mean you've been married 55 years because you agree on everything?" No, no. We've been married 55 years because we learned to disagree on some things agreeably. We learned that I'm not trying. It's not like I'm right and she's wrong, or she's right and I'm wrong. It's just that we're different, and and that's okay. It's okay. The only people I know that wants everybody to think like them are people that are insecure. They don't need a leadership conference. They need therapy. You need to go to therapy. There's help for you. You need to sit on a couch. You can get help for that kind of foolishness. The moment we understand that we're much better on the things that we agree with than we are on the things that we disagree with, that's when we begin to unite people. Now, and by the way, I've had people press me on this and say, well, let me tell you, in the culture that we have today, which is highly dysfunctional in our country, they're saying you have to divide the people. And I say, no, you don't. Abraham Lincoln was the president of America, and it was the darkest hour. That's called a civil war. People are killing each other. And so what did he do on his cabinet? If you read Doris Kearns Goodwin's book, A Team of Rivals, of which Steven Spielberg wrote the movie Lincoln off of, and developed that movie. What Abraham Lincoln did is he put on his cabinet his political adversaries. He said, the Civil War is such an important issue. I need the best thinking in the room, not just my thinking. I need to hear people have different opinions. And he brought them together. I mean, he brought people together that ran against him politically. He had two cabinet members that hated him. But he said, I got to bring them together, because he knew that he had to get perspective that works. And by the way, a democracy only works in bringing people together. Democracy is a terrible form of government when you divide people, because you don't get the best of both people. You get the worst of both people when you divide. Abraham Lincoln did it. Hey, Winston Churchill did it in England during World War II. In that bunker, if you ever go to London, go to the Churchill bunker. I've been to it 20 times. I've done tours in it. You go down that bunker and you're going to find that in that bunker during the war, he brought his political adversaries, people like Clement Attlee. Clement Attlee was running from the opposite party. He said, I need you. I get down in the bunker with me. I need to hear from you every day. What was he doing? He's bringing people together because he knew that the war was more important than just having people sit around a room and a table and agree with him. So bringing people together is absolutely essential. It's one of my very favorite things because what I've discovered is this: the more I bring people that are even different together, the more we understand one another, the more we have a bigger and a more broad perspective, and the more that we value people. Here's the way it works. If I'm close to you, I'll receive value from you. The more that I'm separated from you, the less I will value you. That's just the way it works. So, number one, bringing people together. From a 1 to a 5, how good are you with finding common ground? And what I'm saying is you go find common ground. Find the 1% you agree with on it and then give it 100% of your effort. Find common ground. 1 to 5, how did you do? Let's go to number 2. High road leaders value all people. They value all people. Now, I am a person of faith, and this is extremely, and I'm not going to press this on you. That's not my purpose here today. But I'm just going to impress upon you the fact that because I'm a person of faith, that my model for that is Jesus. My gosh, he valued everybody. I mean, and people say, why does he eat with them? Why does he hang with them? And in fact, one time a person came and said, who's my neighbor? And Jesus intentionally took a Samaritan to describe to a Jew who his neighbor was. He knew that there was adversity. He knew that there was differences. He knew that there was a major separation. He said, well, let me tell you who your neighbor is the person that sits beside you in the community. Your neighbor is a Samaritan. He valued all people. Now, in our coaching company, we just have this, when we bring our coaches together twice a year, we'll bring 2,500, 3,000 coaches together that have just joined our coaching company. And I do about a 2-hour teaching on the DNA of a John Maxwell team member. What do we look like? What does it mean to carry the name Maxwell? And I talk about values, because what I learned a long time ago is there has to be a values connection to really build a great team. Vision is important. Values are even more important. It's not either or, it's both and. But values are so essential. And so I give them the 12 values that we have as a John Maxwell team member. And as I do that, the first thing I say to them is this: we are people of value who value people and add value to them. That's who we are. I starts with me. I'm a person of value. Now, why is that essential? If I don't value me, it is impossible for me to value you. That's a fact. Yeah. My value of others is solely, completely determined upon my value of myself. If I value me, I have greater potential to value. If I don't value me, there's no shot I'm going to value you. So we are people of value. Okay, that's where it starts. Who value others. Oh, good. That's good. I'm a person of value. I value you. Now, we're people of value who values others. And then, so what does that turn into? We're people of value who value others and add value to them. You see, I will only add value to people that I truly value. If I don't add value to you, if I don't value you, I won't add value. Why? If I don't value, why would I go out of my way to add value to you? They're connected. I value you. I value me. I value you. I add value to you. And high road leaders value people. Just think about it again, and think about it today in our culture. The disrespect, the lack of kindness, how quick we are to divide ourselves and point at someone. Instead of building bridges, we're building walls. And And America doesn't work good in a silo culture. Your company doesn't work good in a silo culture. It never has. It never worked. We gotta tear down the walls and bring people together. Number three. Okay. Oh wait, before I go to three, 1 to 5. Just how well do you do bringing people together? Are you a catalyst for people to come together, or are you a catalyst to build walls and separate people? Number three. High road leaders acknowledge their humanness. High road leaders are very much in touch with the fact that they're not perfect people. I don't think people want perfect leaders. I think they want authentic leaders. I think they want leaders who realize that they're human. I mean, just think about it just for a moment. Joe, we're just stopping just for a moment for some of these thoughts. Think about this for a moment. When is the last time you saw a national leader look at the TV camera and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong? I wish I would have made a better decision. Can I tell you something? Most of us in this room can't think of one time that we've ever seen that. There's a problem there, a big problem. Because let me tell you the good news and bad news about John Maxwell. The good news is I have eagle in me, and eagles soar, and I believe I can fly, and we sing songs, and I want to reach my potential and all. Okay, woo, I'm all eagle. Here I am. I'm going higher and higher. Okay, I got eagle in me. That's the good news. You want to know the bad news about Maxwell? I also have hippo in me. And hippos don't fly. Hippos don't soar. Hippos don't try to go higher. No, you know what hippos want? They want a mud hole. They look around and they find a mud hole. They, oh, this is where I want to be. I love mud holes. I like to stand in a mud hole and I like to smell. Oh my gosh, this is so good. We have mud holes in us. I got a hippo in me. The other day I was doing a round table. And when the round table is over, I have a beautiful group of inner circle people, and I've taught them to be very open and honest. And within, I don't know, 20 minutes of the round table being over, my inner circle came to me and said, John, you were edgy today. You weren't, hi, my name's John, I'm your friend. You had an edge to your talk. It wasn't, it didn't settle as well as it could have been. And it didn't have enough love and kindness in it. It was a little cynical. It was a little cutting. And they were right. I had a hippo day. Okay, let me just make sure I'm talking to people that are real people. How many of you got a little hippo in you? I mean, how many of you ever had a hippo day? Let me see those hands. Get them up high. Don't just stick them up and put them back down like you did. It was just a brief moment. In fact, I got both my hands up. You know, I got a lot of hippo in me. Okay, now listen to me. It's okay. Listen to me. We're not talking about perfection. We're talking about we got a hippo side. I spoke with an edge. So what do? I get out of the mud hole. How do you get out of the mud hole? I called the person together that put the round table and used his influence to get people in the room. And I said, Scott, I've got to apologize to you. I had an edge 2 days ago. I was wrong. And I need you to forgive me. I'm very sorry. Will you forgive me? Now, he's a longtime friend. He said, of course I'll forgive you. And then he started making excuses for my edge, which I didn't allow him to. He said, well, you've been traveling a lot. You were tired. And I said, no, Scott, no, none of this. Can't handle it. No. I don't need anybody. I don't need your help. I was wrong. If I start accepting excuses, I'm only partially wrong. And that's crappy. I was wrong. I did it wrong. And I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? Of course he'd forgive me. Then I said, now how do I make it right to the people? I got to make it right. Do you want me to call each one of them and apologize? Do I put something out? How do you do it? And then, can I do another roundtable? No charge. Just let me do another roundtable. What do I do? Now, all I'm just saying is, high road leaders, they're not perfect. They get an edge, but they apologize. And by the way, I love those people that say sorry. I want to look at it and say, no, I want to hear, I'm sorry. Sorry is not a general term for basically people. Sorry. Oh, no, no, that's not. I'm sorry. I screwed up. It was my fault. That's high road leadership. All right, from a 1 to 5, just kind of, I don't know, give yourself a score. Hey, by the way, don't you worry. We're not asking for scores at the end of our session. This isn't like report card day. I'm just trying to help you do a little self evaluation. Number 4, high road leaders do the right things for the right reasons. Oh, I love this. They do the right things for the right reasons. In other words, their motives are right. Motives are so important in a leader's life because we have a leadership advantage. We see more than people see. We see before the people see, and so that puts us at an advantage. If I see more than you, and if I see before you, just between you and me, I'm going to win. But the question in leadership isn't winning. The question is doing the right thing. Do I do the right thing for the right reasons? That's such an important question. Motives matter. Why do motives matter? Because people matter. So I've got to constantly be asking myself, how are my motives? If I see more than you and I see before you, I could manipulate you very easily because I've got a bigger picture than you. Do I manipulate you, which is always wrong because that moves you from my personal advantage, or do I motivate you, which is always right, which means I move you for mutual advantage? Motives matter. They really matter. One of the things when Don and I were getting acquainted that really stood out to me, Don, about you is the verse that you try to live by. To whomsoever much is given, much will be required. You see, what Don understands is there is a weight to leadership. We sometimes look at the privileges of leadership. Got me in a nice office, got me a nice car, make a lot of money, I get to be in control. We look at the privileges of leadership, but we don't look at the price of leadership. And the price of leadership is the more people you lead, the more responsibilities you have, the heavier the weight it is. This is a this is a this is very important to do the right thing for the right reasons and lead out of good motives. Again, when I'm with leaders of country, I was just with the Prime Minister of Cambodia a couple weeks ago. And when everybody leaves, all the handlers leave, the photographers leave, the staff leaves, it's just the Prime Minister, the President, myself. I look at them and I say, just a simple question. Now that you've led your people in your country, are the people better off? I mean, do they look at you as a plus in their life? Or sometimes are you better off, but the people aren't as well off? In developing countries, 90% of the time, the leaders benefit, but the people don't, which is always wrong. So when I can see more and before, and I have all this advantage, do I use it for my advantage or do I use it for your advantage? That's a huge question I've got to ask myself. So on leadership, or, not, or on the fourth picture of a high road leader doing the right things for the right reasons, 1 to 5, how do you do in that area? Number 5, high road leaders, they just give more than they take. They just do. They're what I call a plus in people's life, not a minus. And if you're a plus in people's lives, they love you and want to be around you because you're constantly adding value to them. If you're a minus in people's life, it's exactly opposite. I was the other day, I was at a conference with Dr. Phil, and he made a statement. In fact, I wrote it down. In fact, we were talking, we were doing a couple things on leadership together that day, and then we were on a panel discussion. And when he walked into the green room, he said, John, he said, I gave you permission to take everything I share today and use it, and I want permission to take everything you give to that. Permission granted. Let's just steal from each other and have at it and have a good time. But Dr. Phil said something that day that was just huge. He said, in my life and in my conversations, all my life, he said, I've chosen to, and he used this phrase, outfare the other side. And by saying outfare the other side, in other words, I'm going to be more than fair. I'm not going to be just fair. I'm going to be out fair, or I probably would term it over fair. I'm going to be more fair. I'm going to be more of a plus than I am in a minus. But here's what I know about relationships. If you're a plus, which by the way, you have to be intentional to be a plus because we're naturally selfish. And naturally selfish people like us are always waiting for somebody to do something for me. Well, I hope I have a good day. Boy, I hope people like me. I hope this happens. Wow, I hope I get a break. So we have to be intentional to overcome that selfishness that we have. Am I a plus or am I a minus? Huge question. Number 6, high road leaders develop emotional capacity. The book, this chapter is worth the whole book. I've never heard anybody talk about it. I've never heard anybody teach it. I've seen a few people practice it. When you become a high road leader, you develop an emotional capacity which gets you an inner strength on the inside that over time consistently compounds and you become awesome. What do I mean by you develop that emotional capacity? When you forgive quickly, when you walk the extra mile, when you turn the other cheek, when you don't have to win, you begin to develop an inner core of character and strength that's life-changing to people. Trust me, this is absolutely essential. You develop this emotional capacity. So when I'm going through a difficult time, I used to think I'll do a hard thing and then I'll pay now and I'll play later. Pay now, play later. I kind of grew up on that pay now, play later. And what I realized is that when I do the hard thing, I don't do the hard thing to get the easy thing. I do the hard thing so I can handle a harder thing. Now, don't miss this. You develop an emotional capacity because if you're a high road leader, you embrace challenges and difficulties that when you embrace them and make them your friend, it gives you an inner character that allows you to do something more difficult. That's that capacity. It's like going to the gym. You can lift more weight. You can do so much more as you consistently go. You can handle more emotionally because you've already handled something that was hard. And now you get to do hard so you can do harder, so that you can do harder, so that you can do harder. It's you store up and build up emotional capacity, which when you have emotional capacity, your work it gets stored up before it shows up. That's a whole different lecture. Number seven, Don, I'm not doing good. I'm not keeping pace here, and I'm only halfway through, and I wanted to give them 10 minutes for questions. So I won't get all 12 of them done. Let me do one more maybe, and then you could ask questions, and because I want to make sure I serve you. Besides, I suppose if I gave you all 12, hey, you wouldn't buy the book. Okay, so you got to buy the book. All right, so you gotta leave a little out there. Number 7, high road leaders place people above their agenda. And oh my gosh, I built the largest stewardship company in America. We were raising billions of dollars for nonprofit. And how I built that company, because that's a hard one, because there were already organizations that had maybe helped 3,000 nonprofits raise money. I'm starting off. I haven't helped anybody raise money, and there's some that have already helped 3,000. So you go into a board meeting, and they're going to choose, do you want the company that's done 3,000 successfully, or you want the company that's just getting started? They'll take the one that's done 3,000. So I knew I was up against a lot. And so what I did is I thought, what is my edge? And my edge was I would sit down with the people and I say, let me explain something to you. They're bigger than we are. They've been doing it a lot longer than us, but they're cookie cutter and we're not. And if you allow us to help you, what we'll do is we'll put you at the top of our agenda. You see, you can't be at the top of their agenda. They've got 2,000 other nonprofits they're working with right now. You're somewhere, but you're not at the top. You'll be at the top for us. We'll set you apart. And that's one person at a time, one nonprofit at a time, until in, I don't know, 6 years we were the largest. In fact, the company was the largest. We had the opportunity then to go buy them out. But we place other people at the very top of our agenda. That's very huge. Okay. Wow. Okay, that's 7. You gave yourself from 1 to a 5, and again, and what you do is you go back and say, I'm a little weak in this area, so you get into the book and work it out. And by the way, how do you work it out? It's very simple. Everything you work it out by practice. There is no success without action. There is no success without practice. No one ever became great by watching, observing. They became great by doing. So you find the one you're weak in, and you practice that for a month, and you gain strength, and that's how you go. So anyway, I'm done, Don. I talked a little too long, but anyway, if they got a question or two, I'll be glad to field it for them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, John. I believe everybody has the ability to take themselves off of mute. So if you have a question for John, feel free to do so, or if it's easier, you can type it in and I will read it out here. But I'll open the mic. Thank you, John. People are nervous. There we go.
I would just like to say that I don't have a question per se, it's more of a comment. And it wasn't necessarily on the leadership, which is amazing. I read the book and actually listened to the book, which was really inspirational in making myself a better leader. But the marriage advice to disagree on things agreeably is just something that resonates with me. And hopefully I'll be able to be married for 55 years as well. I love that. I'm going home tonight and I'm telling that to my husband for sure.
Good for you. Yeah, anybody that doesn't believe in compromise hasn't been married very long. It's not a one-way street. Never has been.
There's a question that was typed in here from Morgan. John says, have you ever had a situation where you apologized for being wrong and the apology wasn't accepted?
Yeah. But let me tell you that's not my responsibility. That's their responsibility. And so I never carry that weight. My responsibility is to say I was wrong and ask for forgiveness. Their responsibility is to forgive. And if they don't, I've still fulfilled what I have done in my life. And what I tell people all the time is I'm not responsible for your response. I'm responsible for my actions and what I do. And so yeah, I go in and ask forgiveness. And it's very rare, by the way, when I said yes very quickly. I think there have been, as I can think back, I think I've had maybe 3 occasions. I think on 2 of the occasions they said they forgave me, but I don't think they really did. Let's put it this way: the relationship was shot. It never got back. It was over. So if they said it, it was not in behavior; it was in words. But that doesn't matter. I still was wrong, and I need to apologize. So I don't apologize to get what I want back. I apologize to give what I did wrong and make sure that I make it right. We just got to keep the mindset. If I did something wrong, I just need to ask forgiveness from you, and that's what high road leaders do.
So John, next question typed in the chat. Thank you. How do you influence other leaders who are not living a high road leadership? How do you make it contagious?
Oh, I love that question. Okay. Get them a high road leadership book. hey, this truly is not complicated. If I really had a wish, I wish that citizens would get this book for their, for people that are in elected positions. And by the way, a lot of people that are in elected positions do great work and really help their communities. And there are a lot of high road leaders that are elected. So I'm not, but I wish every person that has a leadership position in our country would have the book and read the book, because we just need high road leaders, and we have so. Or the other thing you could do is do what you do, Don, and that is get your small group together and go through it together and let people learn it together. But they just, if you're not aware of what a high road leadership looks like, you maybe don't know how to be a high road leader. That's why I did the picture. This is what it looks like. You can do this. Okay, go do it. So yeah, probably you need to buy, not too many, 1,000 or 2,000 books, each one of you, to spread out to your closest community of friends. Okay. Anyway, I'm having fun with you. I am. But if they are exposed to high road leadership through the book or through somebody's life, it increases the odds of them becoming a high road leader. Good question.
Next question is, what is the 1 or 2 values you see the most difficult for people to live out in their lives? You see people struggle to develop.
I think the one that is the most difficult is one I didn't talk about today, but it's so, my gosh, it's so needed. And one of the things I'd say is high road leaders don't keep score. And I think people keep score. I think most people live a life of now, okay, I did this for them. They need to do something for me. I mean, I think I bought the meal last time, and I think it's their time to buy the meal. And I don't keep score. I'm not transactional. I'm transformational, hopefully, but not transactional. And the reason I don't keep score is when I was a very young person, I'm talking about I was about 24, I had a person I looked up to who disagreed with the decision I made, and he came to me and he said, "John, how could you make that decision after all I have done for you?" And I thought, "Oh my gosh, he's keeping score on me." And by the way, he had given a lot more than I had given because he was young, and I mean I was young, he was much older. So I mean I was receiving a lot more, and I felt like I was in a hole. I felt like I'm never going to be able to catch up. And there in the book I talk about it. There are about a half a dozen things that are negative when you keep score. What I say is this: I love sports, by the way. I say keeping score is great for games, but it's not great for life. If you keep score on your spouse in a marriage, you're in trouble. You're really in trouble. I mean, yeah, I just don't keep score. And why don't I keep score? Because I don't want, because I need people to look over my faults and forgive me, and it's just not a good. It's a transactional way of living, which is not healthy at all. So I think I think in the book that's going to like, oh my, the lights are going to. I think the lights are going to come on Don't Keep Score, and I think you're going to get incredible courage in the fact that if you're a high road leader, you won't carry emotional baggage. Because I think almost everybody carries a bunch of emotional baggage that they don't need to carry. And I'm going to help them get rid of that stuff. They don't have to carry that in their life. So anyway, Don't Keep Score probably is, I don't know, maybe the hardest. We'll see.
Thank you, John. Next question here is typed in was, what are your thoughts on the differences between what you've discussed today with it just phrased as the younger generation versus generations you've taught in the past? What's changed through generations?
Yeah, in the corporate world, I'm asked a lot. I was asked 3 or 4 years ago, the number one question I was asked in the corporate world was, how do you work with millennials? And that was just huge. In fact, the way they asked the question, I knew they already had a problem with millennials. I mean, so and what I told them is the first thing you do with anybody that's millennial, or where I'm an old person, whatever the whole process is you make sure that you value the person. You value the person regardless of the age. When a person feels valued, most of the gap begins to close. And then you can begin to work on the differences, but you don't work on the differences first. You do two things. You value the person, which brings you in close proximity to them, and then you work on what we are alike. You look for common ground first and find that. Then you can start to work on the differences. But I did a talk, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago about, I think I'm a millennial. I'm in my 70s, and I said, I think I'm a millennial. And I talked about all the great qualities of, they're very purpose driven. They're not near as money driven. They're purpose. And I went through about 6 qualities of millennial. I said, I think I got that. I want to be like that. Well, wow, I want to be like that. And it was just, people just went crazy over that teaching, because what it says is, if you value people, you'll find commonality that'll allow you to close the gap. But if you devalue people, you will automatically widen the gap and build walls. You just will.
You're coming up against time here, so I'll ask one more, and then for everybody else, see if John has time for one more. If not, I'll give a couple housekeeping items, including we'll be finishing up this book. Danny Sells from DLP will be leading us on this, and he'll cover the rest of the lessons John didn't get to next week, which we'll talk about. But John, question was, can you give an example of a time you had a really hard time bringing people together, and how did you work through it?
Well, first of all, I think it is a wrong assumption to think that great leaders bring everybody together. I never have been that good of a leader. I suppose maybe maybe there'll be a day when I'm that good, but there are a lot of times I don't bring people together. But it isn't because I'm not trying. I'm trying to bring them together. Sometimes they just disagree enough with me they won't follow. Sometimes they just basically want to go their own route, and so you don't win them all. You don't bring them all together. But here's the difference. Think of the word intentionality. As a leader, do I intentionally divide people, or do I intentionally work on bringing them together? If I intentionally divide people, I'm in a power grab. I promise you, I'm in a power grab. It's not about others, it's about me and what can I do to get power. Well, if I intentionally try to bring people together, it doesn't mean they all join. And by the way, when they don't join, I bless them. It's okay. Hey, hey, listen. Let me just be honest with you. There are times my leadership's been so poor, I don't think I should follow me. Okay, so if I had my greatest leadership challenge is leading me, not leading other people. I mean, I've got to, that's a tough challenge. So it's okay. But if your intention is to bring people together, what you'll do is you'll bring most people together. And when you bring most people together, you're going to get different perspectives and you're going to get shared thinking. And when you get shared thinking with different perspectives, everybody gets better. I wish I had a whole hour to talk to you about how successful people think. And one of the things that successful people think is they think shared thinking. Well, how can I get everybody talking about this and so I can hear everybody's thoughts? Because shared thinking just gives us so many much more variable, beautiful possibilities than it's just simple. If I have a good idea and you have a good idea, but you don't give me your good idea and I don't give you my good idea, I just got one good idea. But the moment that I gave you my good idea and you give me your good idea, I got two now. I just got two. And I got two not because I'm smart, I got two because we shared. But now I got more than two because once you get good ideas coming together, they begin to have a life of their own. And so all of a sudden they begin to complain. So one and one doesn't make two in shared thinking, it makes three or sometimes four. And how does a great idea come to birth? A great idea comes to birth out of common ideas, good shared ideas. A great idea doesn't come out of a vacuum. Nobody ever all of a sudden got up and said, great idea. What they did is took good idea, good idea, good idea. Oh, that was a good idea. Good. Put them together. One day, out comes a great idea. It comes out of good ideas. That's all shared thinking, which is again what leaders try to do. They try to get people around the table for that. Okay. Hopefully I helped.
Thank you, John. What a great joy and pleasure. Let's give John Maxwell a round of applause.
Thank you so much. I'm giving you a round of applause. Thanks, Don, for bringing me together with them. And I wouldn't know you if I didn't know him. So, who you know is important. So blessings on all of you. And hopefully we can meet again. I can help you again sometime.
I'm going to give everybody 4 opportunities to meet John again and learn more from his wisdom that he's sharing with us today. And then in September, we're going to launch John's Beyond Success Roundtables, which is really the intentionality he was talking about. So we're going to be launching those at DLP, and for those not in DLP, we encourage you to be a part of it. We're happy to have you join these roundtables with us called Beyond Success, and we'll follow a video series that John leads, and a number of DLP leaders will lead us through those discussions. Bye, John. So if you're interested in being a part of those, we'll give you that insight. Reach out to whoever you work with at DLP, or just shoot us an email, shoot me an email, we'll get you invited. And then in November, John and his whole organization, his leadership organization, is going to come to our leadership event November 6th in St. Augustine. So all DLP leaders will be there. But we welcome you and any leaders you have in your company or in your family that would benefit from learning from John, learning from his coaches. You can come join us. We're not charging for the event. And come take part alongside our leaders that we're investing in to get the benefit of the Maxwell organization, John's wisdom. And then finally, John's biggest, most impactful work I was starting to talk about when he jumped on, which is the work he's doing in his ministries around the world. And he's brought 1.5 million people to salvation, transformed the lives of children, of educators, of business leaders around the world, throughout Central America, throughout Asia. And we encourage you to take part in supporting his ministry. It's really incredible. And if you become a supporter of his ministry, for anybody who donates at $25,000 or more, and part of the DLP community, we're going to do a February 25th to 28th vision trip throughout Central America with John himself and his organization. I did the similar trip with my wife and my kids and Jackie and Danny this past March, and it was incredible. So John's going to host a vision trip where we'll meet prime ministers of countries, ministers of education, and see the incredible work and to be a part of what he's doing around the world. So if that's at all of interest or just want to support the work he's doing, we encourage you to do so. The company, that ministry runs two of them, is called Equip. I'll put the link to the company in the chat box, but you can just reach out to us. We'll gladly share you the information we shared out at our event and how you can participate, how you can get involved in the vision trip. There will be a small number of slots, obviously. So if that's of interest, feel free to reach out to us and we'll help connect that. I'll be going on this trip with my family, and love for you to join us. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.